Coming in at number 39 on the Locked On Senators NHL Draft Rankings, it's about damn time that we had a tendy on this list. It's Michael Hrabal out of the Czech Republic and Omaha in the USHL.
Omaha. This is a goalie with huge size. I mean, you've got it on the right here, Ross, Ben Bishop-esque, and there's a reason for that. At a size of, or at least I've got him listed, Ross, at 6'6", 209 pounds. This is a goalie that size is not an issue, and the puck is going to hit him more often than not, just because of plain surface area that this kid has. But he's not just a big goalie out there. He's got good hockey smarts. He reads the play, and I found that he's very smooth in his butterfly. We'll get into more of that after you list off some of the stats and some of the scouts rankings, Ross.
In Omaha, he had 9 wins, 13 losses, and 4 overtime losses, which tells me maybe the team wasn't the
Ross,
best.
They were the second worst team in the USHL.
Yeah. And sometimes that's good for a goalie.
Yep.
You always think back of Ray Emery when he was playing Junior C in the worst team in Ontario, but he's getting 100 shots a game, and that can help a goalie's development as long as you don't get too down on yourself if you do let in a few goals. Had a .908 save percentage, a 2.86 goals against, 3 shutouts as well. He's committed to the University of Massachusetts, which is really kind of up and coming, and he's going to play with a Sens prospect next season, a guy who's been on our show as well. Cam O'Neill will be one of his teammates at UMass next year under former Sens assistant coach Greg Hrabal, who's the head coach there. Obviously, the program has just continued to rise since Cale Makar stepped foot on campus back a few years ago. He's a left-catching goalie, and he's ranked in the first round by Craig Button, 26th overall on his list. Chris Peters has him at 35, but does say he's the top goalie on the board for him. Corey Prodman has him at 38, Elite Prospects at 54, and Scott Wheeler at 56. Wheeler, though, being the lowest on him, I should say the average is 41.8. But Scott Wheeler, I found very interesting what he said about Michael Hrabal, where he's like, man, the upside's hard to ignore, and a team is going to be higher on him than this ranking. So he acknowledges that despite being 56 on his list, if you're taking him higher, don't be scared because there's a ton of upside with this goalie.
Yeah, absolutely. And Ross, when I was watching his highlights for big goalies, the first thing I look for is how do they play down low? Because a lot of these big goalies, you're not going to beat them upstairs. That's where a big bulk of their shoulders, and they're able to cover that, glove, blocker, etc. So how can he stop the puck down low? This guy is a pure butterfly goalie. There's no stand-up. There's no hybrid. He's getting into that butterfly every single time. So he's covering down low. And then what I found I really liked about Michael Hrabal is that he's able to smoothly push across in his butterfly and even adjust. Like when there's a tip, a deflection, or let's say he makes the pad save and it kicks out to the other side of the crease, he's not panicking. He's smoothly getting over, staying upright, having good position, and he's able to make those second saves, which on a team like the Omaha Lancers, he was making second and third saves quite often. So I really think that this is a goalie that you can see a lot of potential, and there's good reasons why a lot of the scouts in our list have him ranked as one of the top goalies in this draft.
Exactly. There's just so much to like about the makeup, all the tools that you could even hope for a guy who at the start of the season, people were just kind of curious about him. Nobody had a whole lot of idea of maybe where he would land, what kind of upside there was. And this year, playing on such a bad team, he was able to show, there's a ton to like about what Michael Hrabal brings. At the World Under-18s as well, he was just peppered with shots and was unbelievable. A .920 save percentage for him, despite, like, when your goals against average is over 3, but you're still making
920, yeah.
Saves, that's pretty impressive in itself. And I think it speaks for kind of the Craig Anderson theory, where when you're getting more shots, it gets you engaged into the game more.
Yep.
He probably faced more shots than any goalie in this draft class this past year.
It's quite possible, yeah. And that's the thing is, some goalies need that. Ross, personally, in my House League All-Star days, I was very comfortable getting a lot of shots. And I found when I wasn't getting shots, I would let in a bad goal easily because I wasn't in the game. And some goalies like that. Now, Michael Hrabal in EP's quotes, he even said that he is working on adjusting to North American ice. I know maybe people that aren't goalies are like, what? the crease is the same size, net's same size. What's the difference? How does it make a difference? There is a big difference in how you play on the smaller ice, just because the plays happen so much faster. Pucks that go to the front of the net are so much more, there's more scrambling going on. Those areas are so much more coveted. So it definitely does change things. And I think it's a great move for him to come from Czechia and start playing in North America as soon as possible.
Oh, I love the fact that he not only was like, hey, I'll come over for college. He's like, I'm going to come over and get involved before I have to step foot on a college campus. So I love that. And the fact that that he's been able to do this for multiple seasons is a huge bonus to how I see his next few years going. Like, again, there's no rush, and at UMass, like, they've got such a good program there. I'm sure that he'll be put in the proper situations. I'm not sure if he'll be the starter right away, but they've got a ton of talent coming back. 3 NHL drafted players right now, and I just think that, he's going to get a chance to really cement himself as a guy who is a no doubt NHL goalie sooner rather than later. He's battling for the top spot for me, just because I'm probably egregiously high on Jacob Fowler that we did as a bonus.
Yes.
He's not in our top 50, but I'm absurdly high on him, and I understand that that's maybe a bit of a hot take by me. But Hrabal, if I'm being kind of rational, he's going to be the first goalie off the board, and there should be absolutely no reason to challenge that.
Now, only a few negatives I could find, Ross, is EP knocks him for, guess what, his skating. His skating speed. When guys coming in on a breakaway and you're out past the crease, and then you got to skate backwards and time that so you properly close the gap as he comes closer to you. EP mentions that they don't love his timing and speed doing that backwards momentum, and sometimes he gets caught. The player gets around him a little much, and then you got a wide open cage. So that's something he's got to look at. Excuse me. And then Scott Wheeler mentions he'd like to see him improve his play with the puck. So that's something else that, those are two big parts of goaltending. But as far as play goes down low, in tight, in front of the net, he excels, and he's a big goalie. I think he's going to figure out those two things. So small hindrances that are being nitpicked here with Hrabal.
Hey, pretty cool that as a 16-year-old in Czechia, he was playing for Sparta Prague, the team in the nation's capital where he's from, in Prague, and had a .936 save percentage in 4 games, playing against kids 3-4 years older than him. So I think he's going to be up for the challenge at the next step. And if your team just took him, especially if you don't have many goalies in the pipeline, you're going to be ecstatic that Michael Hrabal is part of your squad. For more draft coverage, head over to Locked On Senators on YouTube, where you'll have profiles for 70 different prospects heading into this year's NHL Draft. We're a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.